You're listening to the Mommy Labor Nurse Podcast, episode number 50. Can you believe that we have 50 episodes out? That's so cool. And listen to my mic. I got my good mic back, so I sound good. Yay. I'm slowly starting to work back in Mommy Labor Nurse stuff, coming back from quote unquote maternity leave from Mommy Labor Nurse stuff. So yeah, expect some changes going on at Mommy Labor Nurse now that I'm going to be back, somewhat full swing. Super excited. But anyways, yeah, we have 50 episodes, guys. This is pretty cool. So in honor of 50 episodes, I thought it would be fun to do 50 questions to get to know Mommy Labor Nurse Liesl, me. And this is not going to take long. We're going to do these rapid fire, okay? This is from hellomoonies.com. I got these questions. So let's get started. I'm going to do this as fast as I possibly can, okay? Ready, set, go. Name, Liesl. Age, 31. Height, 5'7". Weight, not going to talk about it because I just had a baby. Were you named after anyone? Yes, my great-grandmother. Favorite lunch meat, ham. If you were another person, would you be friends with you? Yeah, I think so. Do you use sarcasm a lot? Yes. Do you still have your tonsils? Yes. Would you bungee jump? No. Favorite cereal? I don't eat a lot of cereal, but probably like that Special K with the strawberries. Do you untie your shoes when you take them off? No. And I guess that's kind of weird. Favorite ice cream? Strawberry. Red or pink? Pink. What is the least favorite thing about yourself? Probably that I have issues with criticism. Who do you miss the most? Probably my friend Tara, who lives in California. So hi Tara, I miss you. I want you to just move back to North Carolina. What color shoes are you wearing? I'm not wearing shoes. What was the last thing you ate? Cottage cheese. What was the last thing you drank? Coffee. I'm drinking it right now. What are you listening to right now? Myself talk about myself. Who was the last person you talked to on the phone? I think my mom. Who was the last person you texted? Tiffany and Jenna. Mountain hideaway or beach house? Beach house. Favorite sport to watch? Football. Coffee or tea? Coffee. Duh. Sweet or salty? Both. I just like snacks. Hair color? Blondish. Eye color? Brown. Do you wear contacts or glasses? No. Favorite food? I want to say watermelon, but that's probably not my favorite food. I don't know. We're going to go with watermelon. Last movie you watched? I think it was The Lion King with Walter. What color shirt are you wearing right now? Gray. Favorite dessert? All of them. I just love dessert. Strength training or cardio? Cardio. Computer or television? Computer, duh, because you can watch television. You can watch TV on your computer. What is on your mouse pad? White flowers. Any tattoos? No. Any piercings? Yes, I have my ears pierced and I had my belly button pierced at one point and it's not so nice down there. Favorite sound? Probably my kids laughing. That's pretty good sound. Favorite smell? What is my favorite smell? Probably like cake. All right, we got 10 more. Rolling Stones or Beatles? Beatles. What is the farthest you've been away from home? I've been to Israel. That's probably the furthest. Where were you born? Mount Holly, New Jersey. Where are you living now? Raleigh, North Carolina. What color is your house? Blue. What color is your car? White. Any pets? No, my dog died at the beginning of this year. Which would you rather do? Wash dishes, mow the lawn, clean the bathroom, or vacuum the house? Vacuum the house. I feel like that takes the least amount of time. Favorite vacation spot? Las Vegas, because it is the Disney World for adults. And finally, number 50. What is your favorite thing about your career? Probably when I get emails or texts or comments or DMs from you guys saying, that you've taken my courses or you've looked at posts of mine and you've had like a really awesome birth experience because I was able to help you. I really like helping people and I feel like I am able to really help a lot of people doing this. So yeah, that's my favorite thing about my career. All right, so that was 50 things for 50 episodes of the Mommy Labor Nurse podcast. Here's to 100. Maybe we'll do 100 more questions. I don't know. We'll do something for 100, but let's get into today's episode. So today we are doing a birth story with Madison, and Madison is a former teacher turned stay-at-home mom after the birth of her first daughter, Everly, in October of 2019. Through her blog, fellow blogger, woohoo, through her blog, Little Teacher Wife, she shares posts about marriage, family, and teaching to help make fellow moms' lives a little bit easier. So Madison came onto the Mommy Labor Nurse podcast today to talk about her positive induction experience with her daughter, Everly. She had a strong desire to deliver naturally without pain medication or an epidural, and she was worried about how an induction might interfere with that plan. Her doctor, had an induction scheduled with her, and she also took my course, which was pretty cool. So she used techniques, from my course and other resources too, and she was able to successfully deliver naturally after a long time, after a long induction, but she was able to do it. So she is going to tell us all about it in this week's episode.
You're listening to the Mommy Labor Nurse podcast, where we firmly believe in the power of education when it comes to giving birth. Tune in each week as we dive into pregnancy-related topics, expert interviews, and a variety of birth stories. As a reminder, anything you hear on this podcast is not medical advice. Please see mommylabornurse.com/disclaimer for more details. And now here's your host, educator, registered nurse, and fellow mom, Liesl Teen.
This episode of the Mommy Labor Nurse podcast was sponsored by Pebble. Did you ever notice that women are monitored closely for 40 weeks of pregnancy, but once we have our babies, we're sent home with no follow-ups aside from one short visit 6 weeks later? Yes. Unfortunately, our healthcare system falls terribly short in providing postnatal care for the very typical challenges nearly every mother encounters after birth. Our bodies don't just snap back, as most of us assume. Our hormones, pelvis, core, urogenital systems, and nutrient stores are greatly impacted, as well as our relationships, self-image, and adjustment to our professional lives. This is also a big problem because postpartum health outcomes impact a mother's overall future health, as well as the health of her future pregnancies. Thankfully, there are people out there committed to changing this, and that's exactly what today's sponsor, Pebble, is all about. Pebble is an exciting company innovating how we access and receive postnatal care. Through their website, book live video appointments with top-rated pregnancy and postpartum healthcare specialists, all from the comfort of home. Because let's face it, it can be really tough to get out of the house with a newborn. Something I'm even more excited about is their new first-of-its-kind comprehensive postpartum care program. This is something every mother should have. With the Pebble Complete Care Program, you get paired with a postnatal medical expert as your own dedicated care partner, receiving regularly scheduled video sessions and unlimited support throughout your fourth trimester. There is so much to this program that is truly game-changing and will help set a mother up for success. Visit their website and schedule a free call with one of their care advisors to learn more. Plus, they are giving the Mommy Labor Nurse community $100 off the Complete Care Program. Simply enter the code MLN at checkout. Visit pebbleparents.com for more information. And I just wanted to say at the very end, I have been going through this Complete Care Program myself. As you probably know, I've talked about it in my story some, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It has been a game changer for me postpartum. Just changing my overall, just everything, just having somebody there to talk to, my midwife, Tanya, there to talk to, having regularly scheduled visits with her and with a mental health specialist. I feel like it just set me up for success, and I feel drastically different this postpartum experience than I did with Walter. So definitely, personally, highly recommend that program. Definitely check it out if you're interested. Hi, Madison. Welcome to the Mommy Labor Nurse podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Can you just start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what your hobbies are, what the weather's like, all of that good stuff?
Of course. My name is Madison. I'm from Alabama. And I was a teacher, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom to my daughter, Everly, who was born in October of 2019.
Awesome. I love that name, Everly. That's so pretty.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we are doing a birth story today, guys. Madison, you emailed me, I don't know how long ago, a little while ago. And we are just going to be talking about Everly's birth today. So I usually like to start and ask people to kind of go back to when you found out you were pregnant with her, or let listeners know if you had any fertility issues kind of beforehand. So let's go way back to when you kind of were finding out you were pregnant.
Okay. It was actually December of 2018, I found out I was pregnant, and shortly after miscarried. And we weren't trying for that pregnancy, but it kind of made us realize that maybe we were ready.
Yeah.
And so 2 months later, actually, I found out I was pregnant again.
Good.
And that, of course, super excited, but also some anxiety going on with, everything that had happened in December.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely say the first trimester was very nerve-wracking, just trying to get to that 14-week mark, but then feeling like, oh, now I'm here and I'm still nervous. So that was just hard, thinking, oh, it's going to get better. And then I was still struggling with that. But my husband was great at just kind of talking me through everything and getting us through that. And we told some friends right away so they could be praying for us and everything. Yeah. And really the first trimester was uneventful, which was great. I was expecting morning sickness.
Yeah.
But didn't have anything of that. Some heartburn hit around 20 weeks. But really the only hurdle I had in my pregnancy, which was kind of a big one, I went to the hospital at 30 weeks, I believe, in some severe pain on my, lower right side. I didn't think it was contractions, so I wasn't quite sure what it was. Turns out it was kidney stones, which I've had them before, and I thought maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
And so they did an MRI and figured out that it was too big to pass. It was a huge one.
Oh no.
They went in at 31 weeks and tried to do a surgery, but with all you can't be under anesthesia for too long.
Yeah.
They weren't able to get it. And so I had to spend the rest of the time with a stent in to just try to relieve the pain until I could deliver. And so the last probably 8 weeks, I didn't do much of anything, just kind of laid around. And so, which is part of the reason at 40 weeks I was ready to deliver.
I'm glad. Well, I'm surprised you made it to 40. I'm surprised that not at 37, you were like, come on, please. Yeah, that is rough. I've never, let me find some wood. Let me knock on wood. I've never had a kidney stone in my life, but I've taken care of plenty of patients. Not so many pregnant patients, but when I used to work in the ED, we would get kidney stones all the time. And people would always say, especially women, if it was women say, this is worse than labor. This pain is worse than labor. Like, this is so bad. Kidney stones are so bad. And just, and there's not a whole lot you can take as far as like medication. Yeah, I feel for you. That sucks. All right. So we got to 40 weeks. So I'm assuming that once we got to 40 weeks, you were like, hey doc, or hey midwife, can I get my induction please now?
Yeah. So we got to, at 39 weeks, my doctor told me that he could induce me, but knowing that I wanted to try to go as naturally as possible, I thought it was probably better to wait. Yeah. And he was fine with that. But then we got to 40 weeks and I was still less than a centimeter dilated. And so we decided, okay, if by next Monday, the day before 41 weeks, I haven't gone into labor, then we'll do an induction. Yeah. So I was good with that. I felt like we had, gave my body a long time to get there, but we weren't really pushing it too much. Sure enough, nothing happened that week. And so
it never does, right? When you want it to.
Right. I was like, maybe if we set this induction date, it'll just happen now.
Yeah.
No. And so on a Sunday night, so it was October 13th, I went in around 5 p.m. and they did a Foley bowl it's probably about 6 p.m. when they placed that. And initially just some cramping, I didn't really feel any contractions, but very uncomfortable feeling. They did give me an Ambien, which at first they offered that. I was like, no, I'm fine. No, I needed it.
I was going to say, I always encourage people to, I mean, say what you want about, I used to take Ambien like pretty regularly, like even when I was pregnant, because I used to work night shift, and I don't need it really anymore, but I always encourage, it's so difficult to rest in the hospital, especially like you, when you have to come in and place that Foley bulb kind of the night before. It's so difficult to rest in the hospital anyways, because you're just in a different setting and it's not your bed and, blah, blah, blah. So I'm always like, I know, but it's only 1 amp, it's only this very, very low dosage. It's going to help you just maybe you're not going to completely pass out and sleep, but it's just going to help you relax and rest. So yeah,
exactly.
Ambien. I try to always encourage people to take that Ambien if it's prescribed to them.
Oh, I would definitely recommend that. So I took that and fell asleep. Around 3, the nurse came in and started the Pitocin, but I barely woke up for that. And then woke up when the nurses changed shifts at 6:30. So the new nurse came in and, introduced herself. I knew she was going to be with me for the whole day, basically. And the other nurses had told her I wanted to avoid an epidural. And initially my going natural, okay, well, I feel like maybe the nurses are going to think, oh, you're just a first-time mom. You don't know what you're talking about. Call me when you come to your senses type of thing. But she was like, I am completely on board with that. This is my favorite part. I'm going to, we're going to really help you do this if that's what you want to do. So just right away, I felt at ease with the whole day.
Good. That's awesome. Yeah. I think it's so dependent on the nurse that you get to. And I think overall as labor and delivery nurses, like we're trying to change the narrative. Like we're trying just to be like, hey, nurses need to take care of all different types of patients, like, moms who are first-time moms who want to go natural, and they need to know the necessary interventions to do with them and how to talk to them about this, and not, just to kind of, brush them off. And then, on the contrary, like natural kind of based nurses need to take care of patients who are like super gung-ho epidural. So I'm glad you got a good one though. That was very open.
And so with that, she was like, all right, but if this is what you're going to do, you're not going to lay in bed all day. So let's get up and move around. And so she was able to hook me up to a portable monitor that was also waterproof.
Good.
And so we got up, I walked around a lap or two, and then had to come back to the room to use the restroom. And right after that, the contractions hit so hard that I was like, I don't think I can walk anymore. Yeah. I need to stay in here. So I sat down in a rocking chair and just kind of focused on, I think the TV was on, just stared at the TV and just tried to breathe, which was proving to be a little bit more difficult at that point.
Right.
So then the nurse was like, okay, let's try, switching it up. We'll get in the shower. And I was able to just kind of go in the shower and be by myself and just relax and be, of course, my husband was there and very supportive. But at that point, I was like, let me just be by myself for a second.
Yeah, you needed a break, a breather.
Yeah. And so I had contractions, but probably worse than anything was like a constant ache in between my hip bones, like low belly that just would not go away. And I remember thinking, oh, if that just goes away, it's going to be so much better. But who knows if that would be the case or not. I don't know if it was her position, but something was going on there.
Probably. Could have been a position. Yeah. It sounds
Probably
usually
so.
with that pressure, it's usually positional kind of related.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I probably stayed in the shower for about an hour. My doctor popped his head in the room and was like, "You're the cleanest patient I have." And I was like, "Great. I'm going to stay in the shower because I feel great."
That's a funny thing to say. You're super clean. You've been in the shower for so long.
For an hour, you're fine. I was like, "Yes, go away. I don't need you."
That's funny.
And so I think at 11:30, which was, my water did break on its own at 7. 7
Okay,
a.m.
there you go. That
So
helps.
that was good. I was
Yeah.
about 5 centimeters when that happened.
Okay.
And so at 11:30, right before noon, I was up to 7 centimeters. So I was feeling great. I was like, this is happening so fast, faster than I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
Contractions were getting a little bit more painful. And so I asked them for nitrous oxide.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing ahead of time that was going to be my first pain management thing that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so they brought that in there. I ended up loving that. Was able to really focus on my breathing and just kind of helping me relax. And I remember from taking the Birth It Up course that you said something like, it doesn't take the pain away. It just kind of makes you not care about it so much.
Right.
And I would
tell people
100% agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird, because you think that, okay, if I'm doing this, it's going to help with the pain, but it really, at the end of the day, doesn't. It just kind of it really truly just kind of makes you not care as much about the pain. I'm so glad that was beneficial for you though, because I tried that with my labor and I did not like it at all. But
that's what I've heard. I've heard it's people love it or they don't.
Yes, people love it or people hate it. But that's all. I mean, hey, that's great. You were able to do that.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, it kind of just made me a little loopy, so I didn't care so much.
Yeah. No, I love it.
So about 3 hours later, the nurse checked me and I had gone to 8 centimeters.
Good.
So at that point, I felt kind of frustrated because I was like, I went through all of this and I've just gone a centimeter.
Yeah.
Got in the shower again. I think at that point, I definitely hit the transition.
Mm-hmm.
The monitor on my Pitocin started beeping at me and something happened with my IV and a different nurse came in and I was just giving her the death glare the entire time because I was like, this noise is annoying me. Can you come stop this?
Yeah.
So looking back, that's definitely what it was because I was just in a mood.
Yeah. That everybody does that. When you go through that, if you don't get epidural, you go natural, you go through that transition. It's like you just kind of, something switches in your brain. You just go a little feistier.
So at 3:30, an hour later, the doctor came in to check and I was still at 8 centimeters.
Yeah.
So still frustrated.
Yeah.
And I just looked at my husband and my mom was in there and just said I need something.
Yeah.
Anything. Give me some IV pain medication. Give me something.
Yeah.
I knew that 8 centimeters was the cutoff. I knew that going into it. I knew that then, but I was like, oh, they're going to make an exception just for me.
Yeah.
So the nurse came in and she was like, well, let's, I can check you. And if you're still at 8, maybe we can do it. My mom and my husband, knowing that wasn't really what I wanted, kind of gently told me, that might make you nauseous. That might. And I was like, I don't care. Give me something.
Right.
Again, just very feisty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my husband's like, well, while we can figure this out, why don't you try the nitrous oxide again? And I was like, it didn't do anything. He's like, I think it did. Let's try it again. Nurse was like, why don't I check the tank? Maybe it emptied out. I'm sure they were just trying to humor me.
Yeah, just trying to elongate the process. Yeah.
So, but they did check the tank, and nurse was like, "Actually, I think it's empty, and so we'll replace the nitrous." Which at this point, still in transition.
Yeah.
She switches the tank out. Something spews everywhere. We've got the tank spewing pressurized air out into the room.
Oh my God.
10 nurses rushing in. I'm just annoyed beyond belief. But they got the nitrous working again. And probably almost immediately I was like, no, I can do this. I'm okay.
Good.
And so around 6 o'clock, I got to 10 centimeters.
Yay.
And they're like, let's do some practice pushes. Nurse was like, she's going to have a cone head, just so you know, but we'll start practice pushing. And at that point, my mom left. My mom and my husband's mom had kind of been in and out the whole time. But we knew that we just wanted it to be us when I started pushing and delivered her. So my mom left and my husband was in there and we, all right, we're about to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really keep an eye on the clock. I wasn't concerned with that, but my husband was, just because his whole concern the whole time was she's going to end up going this whole time and then have to have a C-section.
Yeah.
And so he said he was keeping an eye on the clock, texting people with updates. He was staying up at my head and telling people like, she's still pushing. Throughout the whole time, the nurses were like, just give us one more. And I remember thinking, like, in my rational head, I should be mad at you because I know it's not just one more push. But that's helping because it's just a little bit more like, let me focus on this next contraction. Mm-hmm. And they kept telling me, when we get the doctor in here, it's go time. So I just kept waiting for them to call the doctor in there.
Right. That's like, just let me get to that point. Just let me get to that point. I totally get that.
So it's like 7:30, the doctor came in. So after an hour and a half of pushing, the doctor came in and he took one look and he's like, this is a big baby. Like, you're going to really have to work on this one. You're not pushing good enough.
Aw, boo.
Which he was like, I guess looking at me, he knew that would encourage me. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, maybe.
I was like, I got this. Don't worry. 8:05, 2 hours of pushing.
Yeah.
She finally came.
Yay.
Came out pretty purple.
Yeah.
Just from, kind of being in the birth canal that long. Mm-hmm. My husband apparently thought all babies came out purple, which was probably good because I think he probably would have panicked if he didn't.
I mean, they kind of do, but some pink up a little faster than others.
Yeah. I was like, no, that's not quite how some babies come out. But, of course, 15 seconds probably she was crying and she pinked up soon after that. And as soon as they placed her on my chest, I was like, none of that pain matters anymore. Aww. Like, it was all worth it.
Right? So, I know. It's like it just completely immediate. You're like, that sucked. And that was so
that was
hard.
Awful, but
like, I feel like Superwoman because I did it. That is so amazing. So I'm assuming that she was okay. They put her on your chest and she was
perfectly
fine. Awesome.
Did have a cone head.
Yeah, I'm sure 2 hours of pushing. That's what people sometimes don't realize is that, when you push for that long, sometimes there's a huge cone head. Sometimes it's not even just a cone head that is, what's the right word? Vertical or like in the center of your head. Sometimes it's kind of like a cone head that's off to the side. If, maybe it was kind of malpositioned. But cone heads are very common, especially with first time moms. If you go speedy quick and you push a baby out in 5 minutes, probably baby won't have too much of a cone. But cone head, bruising sometimes when you're pushing like that.
Yeah, she had some bruises in her eye that actually stayed for probably about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Red blood vessels in her eye.
That's common. That's very common. Awesome. Well, let me ask you I want to ask you about your recovery with her, and I want to ask you about how breastfeeding went. So how was your recovery after delivering now, kind of in the hospital and, the next kind of few weeks?
Mm-hmm. So I think, I delivered her at 8:05. I think by 10, we were in the postpartum room. Mm-hmm. I felt if it wasn't 10 p.m., I would have felt good enough to get up and get a shower. So I felt pretty good.
Yeah.
Did the next morning, but then I started feeling very tired. Mm-hmm. typical is what I thought.
Yeah.
Turns out they took my blood, like drew my blood, and my iron levels were super low.
Oh,
And
so a little
so
bit too much at delivery or something.
Which they did have to give me a shot of, I'm not sure what it is, just stop the bleeding so much, stop me from hemorrhaging. So, I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But the levels were really low. They came in and wanted to give me a blood transfusion. I was like, can we try something else first? You know, I just don't love that idea.
Yeah.
And they were fine with that. They ended up giving me an iron infusion, which didn't drop my levels anymore in the next 24 hours, and then put me on iron pills to take home with me. And then we did a week follow-up, and my levels were fine after that. But I definitely look back at pictures from that day and I was so pale. And
I'm sure that'll take, I mean, even I tell moms, I mean, if you lose a substantial amount, if you're classified into that postpartum hemorrhage category, it sounds like maybe you quite weren't, but maybe you were on the cusps. You still, I mean, I remember not feeling so great, and I definitely didn't have a postpartum hemorrhage. My bleeding was normal, but I just lost blood. And some people just regenerate blood really fast, and some people don't. And it just, it makes you feel like crap if your blood counts are low.
But really, other than that, so after, a week after that, I felt, back to normal, and I felt fine. And I mean, obviously I was still going through just the normal postpartum recovery things. I did have to have a couple stitches right after delivery, so those healing. But other than that, I feel like my postpartum recovery was pretty straightforward and better than I expected it to be, which was nice.
That's a nice thing to hear, because I think a lot of people, it's the complete opposite, All right. Well, let's talk about breastfeeding. Tell me, first of all, did you plan on breastfeeding? Were you successful? How did that whole journey go?
Yeah. So I in my pregnancy, I knew that I wanted to try to breastfeed.
Yeah.
And I think I just kind of assumed it would be easy. My sister breastfed her babies. My mom breastfed hers, most of them without any trouble. But we actually had our first kind of hurdle early on. She had some trouble latching in the hospital. And she was born at 9 pounds, 12 ounces.
Oh, wow.
Which 10% of that is almost a pound. And so she almost dropped a pound in the hospital in the first 3 days.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
So, the lactation nurses were a little concerned about that and gave me a nipple shield, which helped her latch. And so she latched fine with that. Went to the pediatrician at her around 4 days, and my milk came in that day. And then we just kind of seemed like it was getting better from there. And she was definitely gaining weight, but I had to nurse her with that nipple shield.
Yeah.
And so I had a feeling that maybe something was wrong, like a lip tie or a tongue tie or something. And I asked her pediatrician about it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my pediatrician. He said she didn't have one. I still couldn't really shake the feeling that she did, but kept brushing it off and was like, okay, I'm just being crazy. I'm being paranoid. I've looked at too many internet articles or something.
Too much Google research.
But finally, I just was getting annoyed. I don't know if it was more me getting annoyed with the fact I had to use the shield or something, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was going on any longer. And so when she was 8 weeks old, I got an appointment with a specialist in Birmingham, Alabama. And sure enough, he took one look at her and said, she has a tongue tie and she has an upper tie and a lower lip tie.
Wow. It's interesting that the first person, maybe, and that goes to show you, like, everybody, like some providers, I guess some are more thorough, some are just can spot things more easily, maybe is the right word.
So, and through doing, some different research on it, apparently pediatricians aren't really trained in that. So they only really see super obvious ones or,
right.
But yeah, so she had all those ties and they did a revision that day.
Mm-hmm.
And within a week she was nursing without the shield.
Oh, that's great.
And, did great with that transition.
And I forget what you said, how old was she? Like
She
when was this?
2 months old when we did that revision.
Oh, wow. So you went that long.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a long time. Yeah.
But so after that, she was nursing fine without it. But then at 5 months old, she had, she got a little mild cold, but I took her to the doctor, and turns out she had only gained about 2 ounces in a month. So from 4-month appointment to 5 months. And so the pediatrician wasn't super concerned. He was like, her length is fine. She looks healthy. She's meeting all her milestones.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want to monitor this. But at that point, this was just a month ago, I decided to switch to pumping and then giving her breast milk in bottles, which is actually what we're still doing right now.
Yeah.
That helped me monitor my milk supply and realize that was kind of low, and got that up and making sure she was getting enough ounces. And sure enough, once we started that, she gained 1 pound in a month and is back on track and seems to be doing really well with that. It's been great about switching to bottles and
good.
Handling
That's awesome.
That transition well.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I was going to say, that's a perfectly fine alternative. If you are one of those that is just having all these struggles with breastfeeding. One of my best friends she just had her second baby. And she did exclusive pumping, like for, I don't even know how long, 18 months, something crazy like that. And then her second one, she tried, to breastfeed, but she had some of the similar issues, and she ended up exclusively pumping. And she's like, I have never been happier. I can just pump and I can just give her a bottle and it's no big deal. And she still gets breast milk, win-win. So yeah, that's awesome that you were able to do that. Well, great. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And remind me, how old is she now? What would you say? 8 months?
No, she is 6 months today, actually.
6 months. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of that. That was a great story. Can you remind listeners, if they want to just follow along, see pictures, or just, see where you are on social media?
Yes. My Instagram is at Little Teacher Wife. And I also have a blog at littleteacherwife.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely add that in the show notes page for anybody who wants to follow along and check you out.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. All right, so that is it for this episode of the Mommy Labor Nurse podcast. You probably follow me on Instagram because that's probably where you came from. But if you don't, head over to Instagram and follow me at mommy.labornurse for more. That is certainly where I am most active. I also now have a separate Instagram for just this podcast, so I encourage you to follow my second account at mommylabornurse.podcast as well if you want podcast updates. Again, that is at mommylabornurse.podcast. As always, you guys know that I also have a website where I have tons of articles all about pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding, newborn stuff, and more at www.mommylabornurse.com. I want to hear more from you on how much you love this episode of the podcast or how you think I can improve. So leave me a comment on one of my pictures, send me a DM, or send me an email with all the love. All right, guys, I will see you same time, same place next week.